From the example of my uncle, the Emperor Constantine, called the Great, who died when I was 6 years old, I learned that it is dangerous to side with any party of the Galileans, for they mean to overthrow and veil those things that are truly holy. I can hardly remember Constantine, though I was once presented to him at the sacred palace. I dimly recall a giant, heavily scented, wearing a stiff, jeweled robe. My older brother Gallus always said that I tried to pull his wig off, but Gallus had a cruel humor, and I doubt that this story was true. If I had tugged at the emperor's wig, I would surely not have endeared myself to him, for he was as vain as a woman about his appearance. Even his Galilean admirers admit to that. From my mother Basilina, I inherited my love of learning. I never knew her. She died shortly after my birth, 7th April, 331. She was the daughter of the Praetorian prefect Julius Julianus. From portraits I resemble her more than I do my father. I share with her a straight nose and rather full lips, unlike the imperial Flavians, who tend to have thin hooked noses and tight pursed mouths. The Emperor Constantius, my cousin and predecessor, was a typical Flavian, resembling his father Constantine, except that he was much shorter. But I did inherit the Flavian thick chest and neck, legacy of our Illyrian ancestors, who were men of the mountains. My mother, though Galilean, was devoted to literature. She was taught by the eunuch Mardonius, who was also my tutor. From Mardonius I learned to walk modestly with my eyes to the ground, not strutting or measuring the effect I was creating on others. I was also taught self-discipline in all things. He particularly tried to keep me from talking too much. Fortunately, now that I am emperor, everyone delights in my conversation. Mardonius also convinced me that time spent at the games or in the theater was time wasted. And finally, it was from Mardonius, a Galilean who loved Hellenism too well, that I learned about Homer and Hesiod, Plato, and Theophrastus. He was a good teacher, if severe. From my cousin and predecessor, the Emperor Constantius, I learned to dissemble and disguise my true thoughts. A dreadful lesson, but had I not learned it, I would not have lived past my 20th year. In the year 337, Constantius murdered my father. His crime? Consanguinity. I was spared because I was 6 years old. My half-brother Gallus, who was 11 years old, was spared because he was sickly and not expected to live. Yes, I was trying to imitate the style of Marcus Aurelius to himself, and I have failed. Not only because I lack his purity and goodness, but because while he was able to write of the good things he learned from a good family and good friends, I must write of those bitter things I learned from a family of murderers, in an age diseased by the quarrels and intolerance of a sect whose purpose it is to overthrow that civilization, whose first note was struck upon blind Homer's lyre. I am not Marcus Aurelius, in excellence or in experience. I must speak now in my own voice. I never saw my mother, but I do recall my father, Julius Constantius, was a tall, imposing man. At least he seemed tall to me then. Actually, from his statues, I reckon him to have been somewhat shorter than I am now, and broader. He was most gentle with Gallus and me on those occasions when we saw him, which was not often, for he was always traveling, attending to the various small tasks the emperor set him. I should mention here that at one time my father was thought to have had a better right to the throne than his half-brother Constantine, but it was never his nature to protest. He was gentle. He was weak. He was destroyed. On 22nd May 337, Constantine died at Nicomedia, to his apparent surprise, since he had just taken the water cure at Helenopolis, and all the omens suggested a long life. On his deathbed he sent for our cousin, Bishop Eusebius, to baptize him.